Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we are diving deep into a really big deal, a landmark bill that could completely transform higher education in India. It's a seriously ambitious plan, aiming to bring the entire system under one single roof. So we're going to break it all down, what it is, why it's happening now, and, why it's stirring up so much debate. Let's get right into it. So to really get why this bill is even on the table, you've got to look at the system we have right now. I mean, think about it. Over 1,000 universities, all juggling rules from a bunch of different regulators. It really begs the question, right? Is this system working, or is it just incredibly complicated? And that complexity, that's the exact problem this bill is trying to fix. All right, so before we even get to the proposed solution, let's first get a really clear picture of this maze we're talking about. Because understanding the current landscape, the tangle of it all, is absolutely key to seeing why the government feels like such a dramatic change is needed. First off, let's just talk about sheer scale. As of the 2021-22 academic year, India is home to 1,168 universities. I mean, that number alone should give you a sense of the massive ecosystem we are dealing with. Now, just try to imagine regulating all of them. And here is where things start to get really complicated. See, those 1,168 institutions, they aren't managed by just one body, not even close. You've got the UGC for most universities, the AICTE for all the technical stuff, and the NCTE for teacher education. Each one has its own set of rules, its own standards, and it creates this tangled web of overlap and, honestly, a lot of confusion. So the big question is, how do you fix a regulatory tangle like that? Well, the government's answer isn't a small tweak, it's a complete overhaul. Let's take a look at the new blueprint they've put forward. Okay, so the core idea here, the absolute heart of this bill, is one word: consolidation. It proposes taking those three separate regulators we just talked about, the UGC, AICTE, and NCTE, and merging them into one single, powerful commission that will govern pretty much all of higher education in the country. And this is a fantastic way to picture it. Just imagine these three distinct entities, each with its own history, its own function, and boom, they get merged together into one streamlined modern superbody. The whole point is to create a single point of authority, a uniform set of rules for everybody. But what does this new commission actually look like on the inside? I mean, it's not just one giant office. It's actually designed with a very specific structure to handle all the different tasks. Let's break down how this is supposed to work. So, the new system is built on these three pillars. First, you've got the Regulatory Council. Think of them as the gatekeepers who decide which institutions can actually grant degrees. Then there's the Standards Council, which is all about setting the bar for academic quality, everything from curriculum to who's qualified to teach. And finally, you have the Accreditation Council, which will handle the whole framework for rating and ranking institutions. It's a pretty clear division of labor. Okay, so that's the new structure, but what does this all actually mean for universities, for faculty, for students? What's the real-world impact? Let's get into the biggest, most significant changes this new system is set to bring. Now, this slide is super important because it shows two massive changes. First, funding. Under the old system, bodies like the UGC and AICTE were the ones handing out the grants. Now, the Education Ministry will do it directly. And the other huge shift? Scope. Those really prestigious, largely autonomous institutions like the IITs and IIMs, well, they're now going to be brought under this single regulatory umbrella. That's a huge deal. If you want to see just how much more power this new body has, you have got to look at the penalties. Right now, the maximum fine the UGC can hit a university with for breaking the rules is 1,000 rupees. Yes, you heard that right, 1,000 rupees. And now, look at this. The new commission will have the power to impose penalties of up to 2 crore rupees. I mean, that's not just a little bump. It's a completely different league. The big takeaway here? This new commission has some serious teeth. Look, an idea this huge, this transformative, of course it's not going to fly under the radar without a fight. In fact, this whole concept of a single regulator has been kicking around for a long time, and it has always been controversial. So let's unpack the history and the arguments on both sides. And this whole thing isn't new at all. As you can see here, the push for a single regulator started way back in 2005. A similar bill was even introduced in 2011 by the UPA government, but it was withdrawn in 2014 by the new BJP government. And the reason? Concerns about centralization. After another attempt in 2018 didn't go anywhere, here we are today with this latest bill. So, what are the proponents saying? Well, experts like S.S. Mantha, the former chairman of the AICTE, argue that merging these bodies is just common sense. It could finally get rid of all those overlapping rules and provide one clear, unified direction for higher education in the country. Clarity. But then you've got the other side of the argument, and it's a very loud and consistent one. Opposition members are calling this bill an excessive centralization of higher education. They argue it just concentrates way too much power in the hands of the central government. And look, these aren't just political talking points. Academics and universities are raising these same questions. Will funding coming directly from the ministry threaten their independence? Will iconic places like the IITs and IMMs lose the very autonomy that made them world-class? And maybe the biggest question of all, can one giant regulator, one elephant as it's been called, really manage such a vast and diverse system effectively? These are the huge, unanswered questions at the heart of the debate. So here's where we land. We're left with this fundamental conflict. Is this bill the blueprint for a streamlined, efficient super body that our education system desperately needs? Or is it a genuine threat to the freedom and diversity that have long defined India's best universities? The future of Indian education really does hang in the balance, and it's a future that's being written right now.